Hello everybody, Robert Farrar from Robert Farrar's Tea and Tarot here. And today we're going to be doing a quick flip through and a kind of a review of the tarot by Carl W. Röhrig. I'll just preamble this by saying a couple of things. I normally only do reviews and flip throughs of tarots that I recommend, and I don't really recommend this one. But it's come into my hands, so to speak. So I thought I might as well show you it and we can talk about it. And in a sense, it's an example of what to avoid in tarot packs, I think. On top of that, I want to say that I try not to be bitchy about other artists. Mr. Röhrig is clearly an artist. And, you know, he does what he does. I don't like this stuff. I think it's kind of awful. But, you know, hats off. It's work. It's something that someone has spent a lot of time on. So let's not be too horrible about it. Yeah, furthermore, I want to say that this tarot came into my hands because it was, in a sense, inherited by a friend, and a friend died, and this tarot deck, unopened, was part of his belongings, and this is a well-loved friend. So again, one doesn't want to be too negative about something that came into one's possession via an inheritance of this kind. Anyway, let's open the box. So there's a booklet in here. It's in German. I mean, the good thing about this German deck is it's the uncensored version. Well, good. I'm not quite sure whether good is the right word. It has body parts in it. So if you don't like the thought that human beings have bodies, ladies and gentlemen, look no further. There are some paintings here of naked people. No photographs, just paintings. But it comes with a book, which is in German, and I've read some of it. And there's an interview with the artist, and it's a very sort of overexcited interview in which the interviewer is clearly a fan, and he says to the artist, "Tell us about how expensive your paintings are. Tell us about how much money you make out of your paintings. Tell us about how much they cost. They cost 40,000 Deutschmarks. That's in 1993. Tell us about all these incredibly glamorous places that you've been exhibited." And to do him credit, actually, the artist sort of ignores those questions. But it's a fairly stupid interview. And then you have some card meanings. And the interviewer says at one point, "Do you really believe in superstitious things like the tarot?" And Carl W. Röhrig says, "No, of course I don't. No, of course I don't. I'm just an artist," which is kind of odd. So here we go. And I have certain observations to make about this. I've told you that I don't particularly like it. I find it basically quite kitsch. A kitsch in the wrong way. I quite like kitsch, but it has to be the right kind for me. Okay, this is a hard-working artist who clearly, you know, puts a lot of work into his paintings, you know. And hats off to him for all that detailed work. But I question this whole project because I think that tarot has become a sort of a genre for artists. This is from the 90s, this deck, so it's before the current explosion of tarot. But tarot has become a genre, and artists think, ooh, you know, it's like still life, or it's like nudes, or it's like painting the ancient gods or something. It's grist to the mill, isn't it, ladies and gentlemen? Here are some things that I can paint. Here's 78 things that I can paint. But my question is, how much research goes into it? How much do these artists actually know or understand about tarot? And on the basis of this deck, I would say sometimes not very much. This deck appears to be based on Aleister Crowley's Thoth deck, which is not a deck I particularly like anyway. But, you know, it's a deck which comes with keywords written on it. So in a sense, if you're the artist and you want 78 subjects to do paintings of, then the keywords are just written all over the cards, and you don't really have to do very much research. You can just have a a copy of the Thoth Tarot, and off you go. Now, my question is, ladies and gentlemen, whether this sort of photorealistic style is helpful for tarot cards. It's sub-Dali, isn't it, I suppose? It's surrealistic. It's got a bit of the Pirelli calendar in it as well. So here we see strength. It's classically a picture of a maiden subduing a lion. And there we see the slight Pirelli calendar orgasmic maiden in the background. What I find interesting about this deck is that it's very highly heterosexual, I would say. I'll show you why I think that. And yet the men are better drawn than the women. Some of the women are okay, but quite often they just disappear behind their makeup. Whereas the men, some of the men anyway, have a certain kind of presence. That's an example of his ladies, and that's one of his gentlemen. But look, I find it quite odd that he just adds breasts whenever he feels like it to any picture. As if, it's like adding salt and pepper, isn't it? Just let's add a breast. The Tower. The real problems come in the minor arcana, I think. That's quite nice, lady with a nice haircut. But I do have something to say about these figures in comparison to a much more humble art job like the Rider-Waite-Smith. That's what I mean about a lady just disappearing behind her makeup. Whereas, if we look at one of his gentlemen, there is much more of a feeling of a face there. I think this deck for me represents, if you like, the danger of surrealism as a tarot style. Because here we see the Pamela Colman Smith Emperor, and here we see the Röhrig Emperor, and this is a real face. I mean, it's a movie style, it's a Hollywood style face, isn't it? But it's real, and I suppose he's talking about Hollywood glamour and imagery and so forth that some of us regard as godlike. But here we have a figure who is, in a way, much less, in inverted commas, well drawn. It's just almost a sketch, really, isn't it? But there is something about it that kind of goes into your bones. It's memorable. It works as a kind of hieroglyphic. It's simplified. Let's look at another example here. We have the Hierophant, and then we have Röhrig's High Priest. And this is, in a sense, this looks like an actor in the role of Hierophant. And then we have Pamela Colman Smith. Actually not one of her most charming images, but nevertheless, it's a hieroglyph, isn't it? It's an icon. I'll give you one more example. The Hermit. And we seem to have James Dean as the Hermit here. And then Pamela Colman Smith's Hermit, who's really a hermit. Okay, now we go into the minor arcana, and here is where I think the problems really start in earnest. We have here a very, an erotic princess of Battens. Now he's taken the Aleister Crowley court card system, where instead of king, queen, knight and page, you have a knight, a queen, a prince and a princess. So there is actually no king. I just think that's needlessly confusing, but I'm just old-fashioned. So anyway, plenty of opportunity for him to draw ladies, and as I say, very fleshy with not so much attention on the face. There's the Prince of Battens, who seems to have things on his mind there. The Queen of Battens, and the second of many breasts in this deck. King of Battens. Not one of his best male faces, but I'll show you some of the really good ones later. The ace of Battens. The two. Oh, I want to say something, and he also got this from the Thoth deck, I think. This really dodgy graphic thing of having something written over something else. So in the background, in grey, you have Staber, which is Battens, and then in black, written over that, you have Herrschaft, which is Dominion. In the Thoth deck, it's a bit better done, so that the grey one is much, much lighter, and the black one is much more legible. So I don't quite know in what world that looks good. It doesn't look good in my world. Herrschaft. And as I say, you know, the thing about the Thoth is that you have one keyword for every card in the minor arcana, which makes things easy for the artist. You know, Herrschaft, Dominion, so I can just do a picture of Dominion. But tarot is actually not about single word meanings. It's about more sort of hologramic meanings, sort of clusters of meaning. And so when you reduce things, you're not really making a terribly useful tarot deck. There you are. There's the 9 of Battens, strength. And the 10 of Battens, he's got here, I think, Unterdrückung, which would be oppression. Fair enough. Okay, let's see what the Princess of Cups is doing here. Well, she's a bit of a... I'm just going to try not to say anything bitchy, but it's very, very difficult. This is an extraordinary picture, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Prince of Cups, who doesn't really exist in most tarot decks anyway. And he's got things on his mind, hasn't he? He's got naked ladies on his mind, and even he's got maybe his own hard-on there on his mind. Anyway, these are paintings, ladies and gentlemen. They're not photographs. This is not pornography. You don't have to look away from the screen. There we have the Queen of Cups. You know, nothing to do with traditional imagery, really. And the King of Cups. Okay, this card, I have to say, this card just managed to make it into the Taschen Book of Tarot, which just came out this year. And it's quite good, isn't it? And I have to say, in the manner of some, artists, and I believe, clearly a straight guy holding the paintbrush here, but in the manner of some of these funny straight artists, the men are better than the women. That might just be me talking here, but I think they are. I think they've got more weight, they're more sculptural, whereas the women, as I say, kind of disappear behind their makeup, behind their their fleshiness. And there is, okay, the Ace of Cups, which weirdly enough in German is Ass der Kelche, so it's the Ass of Cups, and that absolutely is the Ass of Cups, isn't it? 2 of Cups, love, 3 of Cups, abundance, 4 of Cups. So here's one, 5 of Cups. He's got Enttäuschung, disappointment. So here we have, we're disappointed because we're going down the road of life and we encounter a very large boulder. 6 of Cups, lust in Aleister Crowley's system, not in mine. 7 of Cups, 8 of Cups. Oh, I thought that was another breast, but it's not, it's a vortex. 9 of Cups, happiness. 10 of Cups, Sattheit, satiety, and that's definitely a breast, isn't it? It's not just me. Princess of Swords, looking very 80s there, even though this is a 90s deck. Prince of Swords, okay, I admit it, I think that face is quite good. There you are. Maybe it's just because I like male faces, but I think it's more sculptural. It's got more depth. There's the Queen of Swords and the King of Swords. Ace of Swords, Two of Swords, Three of Swords, a very grim dystopian Three of Swords there, fair enough. Four of Swords, Five of Swords, defeat, and there you've got Niederlage and defeat written several times on the card for us. Six of Swords, which Aleister Crowley thinks is science, Wissenschaft, for some reason best known to him. Seven of Swords, Eight of Swords, extraordinary painting here. Unentschiedenheit, indecision. And oh my goodness, he seems to be deciding between two Pirelli calendar models here, you know, and depending on which one he decides on, he'll go down a different path in life. But actually, there's not much to help him decide, is there? Because neither of them have faces. They've both got kind of good bodies. They've just got slightly different, you know, underwear. So that's why this guy here is having a very, very difficult time deciding. And maybe it's his own fault for being so focused on ladies, you know, the sexual side of things. Nine of Swords, which he has down as cruelty. Ten of Swords, ruin and downfall. Okay, we're nearly finished. We've done awfully well. And now we're on the Scheiben, the discs. Princess there, in a state of undress. The Prince, looking rather ooh la la. The Queen of Discs, why is her breast there? Or is it someone else's breast? And the King of Discs, well, he's clearly a money man. The King of Pentacles, and that's right, the King of Pentacles is a money man. Ace of Discs, Two of Discs, Three of Discs, Four of Discs, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's the 9, and there's the 10. And I think what I want to say is that with tarot design, more is not necessarily more. These sort of fussy, over-detailed, surrealist images would be, I think, extremely unhelpful in readings. So I would say avoid the Carl W. Röhrig tarot and get yourself a copy of the Rider-Waite-Smith. That's all for now. You have been watching Robert Farrar's Tea and Tarot. Bye.